want to highlight an issue. Last SL-Q2 I worked on a sent back to New York City had an issue with the ground post. He said when he touches it, the hum goes away. And he played me a video, and it's the same issue I've had with mine, but I normally only have it when I have a older vintage cart, like my if I can get it off, my Pickering, either one of my Pickerings or my Sure cart. Didn't have too much problem with Stanton, but I've got my Sumuko Pearl on here, and it doesn't make much noise. As a C-17 flying over, if you could hear it. But let me turn the volume up. That's about halfway on my little headphone amp there, but that would be extremely loud for me to listen to in here anyway. But overall, the Sumuko Pearl is fairly quiet. So I'm going to take a pause here and swap out with the Pickering, and you'll hear the noise. I'll keep it at about the same, about a quarter. Be right back. Alright, get the Pickering on. If you can hear that, it's just a little louder. But if I jimmy around cart, or if I the reason I'm showing this is last night I tore it all apart, re-lubed everything, tore out the tone arm, rechecked the wiring, the ground wire, put it all back together, and I left out an extra ground wire that I ran internally from the ground post to the ground on the right channel, and it made it nice and quiet. You can hear it quiet. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do it. I'll flip it over and test a wire and see which way I get it to quietest with the Pickering on. Because if I turn up the volume to half, this is the same thing and Nate was getting. And if I touch now, if I undo the ground, it's pretty much the same, but I did verify that the ground is fixed. But then again, that's at a volume that it would be way too loud for me anyway. Even though I do have the small clip speakers in here. So I'm gonna flip it upside down and test some wiring, see what I can get out of here. So what makes it sort of hard is that the SL-Q series has metal plinths. I don't know if that hurts anything. It makes it heavier. The SL-Q-Ds have plastic plinths, like my SL-Q2 here. So let me flip it over and see what I find. Okay, that's with the volume turned up about 1/3. And you can see by the view meter, it's the feedback grounding noise is pretty high. But if I go to, I've got a solid ground wire in here, and if I touch it to metal, you can hear that it goes quiet. So if I ground it to the metal plinth, it goes pretty quiet. So sort of telling me that I need to redo my grounding. See, it's off. Goes really quiet. So I'm really surprised by this. This is where I'm touching it. Zoom back out here. So that's on the hinge. Wow. So basically, let me undo that. Okay, it still has to be grounded to an external source. Okay, that's where I grounded it at the last time. So I'm going to run a wire from the ground post to here, and I'll come back when. Before I solder this up, I did find another way, but if you're having a problem with this, as I've modified my turntable, or if you're one of my customers who's having an issue with this also, you can run a ground wire from here, loosen up the hinge, and insert the wire in here, and then tighten it down. And that way you'll have a good ground to the plinth, because if I touch it to here, to the hinge plate, it went quiet, like I showed on the video earlier when I was just touching on here or even here. So if you don't want to open it up, you can go from the external ground post here and just put your wire in between here. Just loosen up the screw here enough to put the wire in between. Just need a short copper wire, and that's all you need. But I'm going to solder from here, and then I'm going to run this around underneath this screw head, and this will take care of it. This is how I had it. I actually had it from here over into in between the ground, the negative side of the RCA jack, but I found out better after more testing. You can run it from here, which I'm going to do inside, and it to here. I hope all this makes sense. I know some of you are going to say, why'd you even modify all that anyway? You just left it the way it was. Well, I'm into upgrading to better stuff. The old audio cables were from 30-40 years ago when the turntable was made. They were thin, so now I can use my own cables. But anyway, this having a metal plinth makes it a bit of a challenge, so I hope this helps anybody else. But once I get it done, I'll put it back, connect it back up to my system, and I'll show you how quiet it is. Alright, I got the ground wire done. As you can see, I went from the screw here, which is directly into the metal plinth, over to the ground post, and the blue wire goes up to the tone arm, Normally it would be black, but the original one on here broke off. I have a bad habit of breaking off, so I had to replace them. And okay, that's the volume halfway up. And look how quiet that is. But if I pull out the ground, so it still needs an external ground, but now it's properly internally grounded. Well, I'll put this out tonight and send a message to Nick. I haven't heard from him lately since he was first having the issue. So that's a good permanent fix to quiet it down. Lesson learned after all this time. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I hope this helps anybody else out with the same issue. And long live vinyl. Oh,